With the naming system we use today, in English, there are first, middle, and last names, or first, second, and third, or first, second, and surname. But in this video, I'll be calling them first, middle, and last name. In different parts of the world, they use different naming systems, and you could use a different naming system in your world building project too. And the English naming system didn't even start out like this. Some naming systems might use the same names, but in a different order. For an example, saying the last name first, and then the first name, and then the middle name. Some naming systems might not have all three names. For an example, one could just have a last and first name. Some naming systems might use different names. An example could be if a naming system used someone's job instead of their last name. This is actually where a lot of last names come from. Some naming systems might not allow you to just say the names. You might have to say something in between. We'll use the names Sarah and Smith as examples for first and last names. Maybe in your naming system, you can't just say Sarah Smith. The grammar might not allow it. Maybe you have to say Sarah of Smith. Where do names come from? First names normally come from the words for different traits. For an example, a lot of Chinese names are a one-to-one translation to a word that is used to describe people a lot. Now, people who speak English aren't named Peace, Strong, or Logical because English names are normally borrowed from other languages or just so old that the word that they came from doesn't exist anymore. A lot of naming systems have an affix used as a diminutive on names. This is normally a really easy sound to make. Most likely a vowel, maybe a common fricative, or a sonorant. Last names can come from several different things. It can come from the town somebody's from. For an example, someone might be called Sarah from Portland. Last names coming from place names normally only happen if the place isn't very populated. Last names can come from someone's parents' name. For an example, someone might be called Sarah, who's John's daughter, or just Sarah, John's daughter. Last names sometimes come from somebody's job. For an example, Sarah, who's a shop owner, or just Sarah, shop owner. This would be more popular in smaller settlements, such as towns or villages. Not good in big cities. Last names can come from what clothes somebody wears. For an example, if Sarah wears white clothes, then she might be called Sarah White, or Sarah who wears white, or White Sarah, or something like that. Again, this wouldn't work very well in a big city, because there are lots of people who wear white clothes. Last names can come from a land feature somebody lives by. Let's say Sarah lives next to a big rock. Her last name might be Boulder, Big Rock, Rock, Stone, Big Stone, etc. Last names can even come from somebody's favorite animal. For an example, Sarah who loves bunnies, or Sarah Bunny. The type of last names that we use today, where you inherit it from one of your parents, this happens when one of the previous naming systems are used, and then eventually they turn into family names, normally because of population. The way you inherit that name, if you use that naming system, might be different. They can inherit it from the father, or they can inherit it from the mother, or it could be a mix of their mother and father's last names, or, as I said earlier, if the naming system is new, they could just have their own last name.